Hey guys, and welcome back to Double Thrill. Today we're going to be taking a quick look at a very familiar little game that just came out on Steam called Oceanhorn. Something along the lines of a subtitle that follows something like Uncharted Monsters or something. Monsters of the Uncharted series. I can't quite remember off the top of my head, but I do know it's called Oceanhorn. So you'll immediately be able to tell from a lot of the UI stuff and just the kind of general look of this stuff that this game is very familiar to anyone who's played or even knows of the Zelda series. You know, they're not really trying to hide it here. They are making a Zelda clone type thing very overtly, and I think it's up to you to decide whether that's an homage or a rip-off, but we'll get into some of that stuff here. So just gonna jump into the world map and we'll just get started here. I am right at the start of the game here. I have literally just created a new save for the purposes of the video, so I'm literally like 10 minutes in. This is very beginning of this game. So we need to go to Bomb Island. Okay. So quite a few things to talk about here. I guess we'll start with the sort of open world nature of it. As you see, there was like a world map there, and you go from place to place. Very Wind Waker-esque. There's a lot of different concepts from a lot of different Zelda games being brought together here, and being utilised in a number of different ways. You know, sort of changed and tweaked a little bit, but also, you know, tightened up a little bit. You know, this is like obviously the sailing from Wind Waker, but it's all automated. You know, it doesn't have the finicky, awkward stuff with like changing the wind direction and stuff, which, you know, I'm sure some people liked, but I never particularly enjoyed it. It was just kind of weird and awkward, but it's got the general feel of like big open world, you know, with different islands and a big open sea, and you sail around the boat and stuff. But it just, I think it does it in a more enjoyable way, just purely because you don't have to do that weird sailing and stuff. So we are on Bomb Island, which, would you believe, is a great place to find some bombs, would you believe? So again, you know, bombs are very familiar to the Zelda series. You'll probably be surprised just how close this game gets to the Zelda games. Not just in style and like presentation, but also like you are basically using the same tools to solve puzzles. You are using bombs, you're using arrows, you're using, you know, like special boots or whatever. You know, they're not really, you know, like I said, they're not trying to hide anything. This is very overt. I should mention as well before we get too deep. This is actually an iPad port. This was originally on the iPad on iOS. It's currently on the Apple Store for £6.99 or that's $10, I think. And this is the Steam version that just recently came out. Console versions are possibly planned. Their developers are talking about it, so keep an eye out for that. But right now it's on Steam. It's a little bit more than it is on the iPad. It's about £11 or, you know, about $15 or something. So, which is still a very fair price because it seems like a fairly decently long game, and I think the production value is pretty good. So I'm probably just gonna kind of whiz through this stuff because I've done all this stuff, and frankly, we are very early on, so the puzzles and stuff are very basic. So that was a little secret there to like push that statue and that open that chest over there. So right, I can't remember exactly what order it wants me to do this stuff in. Okay. Oh yeah, I remember. Okay. So there are some interesting tweaks. There's definitely stuff that they change. Notably, about the puzzle stuff, is this big blue button that you can use to effectively reset a puzzle. So if I move that and then press this button, it'll put it back there to where it was. So it's an interesting way to sort of make puzzles a bit less frustrating if you fail them. You'd have to go back an area and then come back and have it reset. You can just reset it doing that. So some smart changes like that. A lot of the changes they make are very small, I will admit. You know, nothing. There's certainly nothing here that completely overhauls the Zelda formula or something, you know, anything crazy. But they do some smart things. Obviously, the isometric camera view is new. That's a I quite like it. It's just a different take on the obviously the third-person view in Zelda, or traditionally the 2D, I guess. But thinking more to the sort of 3D ones, you know, Ocarina of Time onwards and stuff. This very much reminds me quite a lot of Wind Waker, not just because of the sailing stuff, but just because I think Wind Waker played quite a lot better than Ocarina of Time, or it certainly aged better, purely just because it was, you know, on the GameCube, it's one console generation later, stuff like that, so. Okay. And another quite a bigger thing that they do is basically that, well, there's two things really. First of all is that you actually level up, so there is like a leveling mechanic. You're constantly earning XP and that will allow you to level up, and basically when you level up you'll see that well, I'll probably level through in this video, but you'll see that it will just give you like a reward, which is ranges from like you know, here's a bunch of coins and bomb refill, or you know, something more substantial like a boat upgrade or something. And it's always the same one. It's never random. You don't get to choose or anything. It's always just set. But those are generally pretty useful. And then below that, you can see we've got challenges, which range from more general stuff like, as you saw before, perform 10 combo attacks, to more specific stuff like, you know, defeat you know, it says defeat the boss in the abandoned mines, which is specific to this island and stuff. So that will reward you with XP and stuff, which obviously goes to your level. So there's some interesting stuff there that's obviously new to the Zelda formula and stuff. And again, you know, very early on, and I haven't finished this, so we will just sort of rush through this dungeon, and I'll show you the next island probably. It's I think I'd probably say it's a quite stripped down Zelda, in that it's a lot smaller scale. Obviously, you know, it's a lot cheaper. It's, you know, a lot cheaper than Zelda games would traditionally be. A lot smaller scale, you know, it's indie and stuff, so you kind of expect it to not be quite as long as a Zelda game. It's still decently long. I think I'm about 6 hours in on my main save, and I've probably got it certainly looks like I've got a decent chunk left, so it's a decently long game considering the price, but it's definitely stripped down. Like, the combat is fairly basic, fairly easy. A lot of the puzzles are very basic. Obviously, they get a lot more complicated than this. This is obviously, you know, this is pretty much the first major dungeon, so you'd expect it to be very easy, but more general stuff. How do I do this? There we go. Let's remember to do that. Yeah, just I think the puzzles are in general, you know, they don't get quite as complicated as the Zelda stuff. You know, like I said before, you are getting a lot of the same items. It's just that they are the lesser tier of Zelda items, like bombs and arrows. You don't get the crazy stuff like the, you know, swinging to do crazy stuff and whatever. So basically, what we need to do here is we're trying to get that chest up here, and to do that, we need to create a bridge from here to here using these blocks. So if I remember right, it's something like this. No, I think I fucked up. I can't remember quite how you do this. I have done this before, but again, it's I can't quite remember exactly how you are supposed to solve this one. Ah, there you go. So that'll create a little bridge for us there, which will allow us to get across here and open this chest, which will give us a key. And with this key, we can open this door up here. I will say, I think that for an iPad game, it does look, you know, iPad port. It does look pretty good. It's got a nice, art style to it. You know, a lot of some of the world details are a bit basic if you get too close, and the character models aren't fantastic. And you know, just some of the stuff obviously isn't great, but it does look pretty good overall. I think there's some nice lighting effects. The water looks pretty good, especially in the overworld. So I think it's a pretty decent port overall, visually anyway. So we need to light all these. That will drop a chest, and in that chest there is. Oh god, I'm blinded. A master key, which will allow us to open a door later. But first we need to do this. We need to go over here. Got a little like dash sprint thing that will use stamina, which is that little green mirror. We need to go over here. We need to kill this guy because he holds the key to this little door. That'll let us open this. It's all very formulaic. It's all very step by step. It's all very, you know, there's a very coherent process to all of this stuff, which I kind of like it. It's fairly simple, but there's definitely like a certain logic and a flow to it that I can appreciate. That makes it very satisfying to go through these puzzles. I found certainly, as it is just like a chain reaction of like solutions, and that you know, that's kind of the feeling you get from most Zelda games. But I feel like this is more so just because the puzzles are, I guess there are more of them, but they're just simpler. They're smaller scale. Okay, we just got battered by that. Not great. Yeah, even this boss just seems like something out of Zelda. It's like something out of like Link to the Past or whatever. But, you know, said it before, say it again. They are not. They're pretty unapologetically being, you know, or making a Zelda clone. So you know, it's not. It is not accidental, we'll say. Okay. Okay, so we did level up actually. What do we get? Alright, sweet. We got like a gun for our boat, which we'll show off later, which adds a more interesting dynamic to the boat stuff, which makes it a lot less tedious than just sailing around the world. So bombs. So the first major mechanic you get outside of swinging your sword. How do bombs work, you ask? Well, there you go. You drop a bomb and it blows up. It's crazy, I know. So we'll just hop out of here. Again, I'm just kind of rushing through this. Obviously, I would spend a lot more time to sort of carefully look around and get the most out of the money and XP that I can get. But hey, you know, for the purpose of this video, I just want to show you as much as possible. Plus, I'm not going to keep this in. I've already got a much later save, so okay. That's some, they're not even worth killing. Aha! Dungeon complete. And that guy says, "Whoa! They got me in prison on an island." So normally that would unlock the withered lands or whatever it's called. I can't remember. But because I had already discovered it, it didn't do it. So basically, that's how traversing the world works in this game. Is that you'll see that when I got into the overworld map or whatever, I can only travel to locations I've discovered, and in order to discover a location, you simply have to have heard of it. You have to have someone say it in conversation or read it in a note like I did just there. So it's all very linear is not the word, but very structured. They very much intend you to go to places when you need to, or you know, when it's possible for you to go. So you know, it's definitely a lot more. Again, you know, I don't want to say linear. It's definitely a lot more formulaic and structured than than something like Wind Waker. Certainly less open. You know, I have no direct control of this sailing, but now I've got this little gun, so I can just shoot stuff, which allows me to shoot these crates and stuff for money, and you know you'll get enemies popping up and stuff. So gives you something to do while you're waiting for this. But I still do kind of wish that there were like GTA style, you know, skip journey buttons or whatever, because you know your boat, Jesus Christ, your boat doesn't move that fast, and the world can be quite big. So I do kind of wish that I could just skip the journey, even if I had to pay like 10 gold or whatever. I believe, maybe I'm misremembering, that later on you get like an upgrade to sail faster, but right now, you know, you're pretty slow. So should also note that I am actually playing with a controller. For some reason, in the top right, it keeps defaulting back to keyboard and mouse controls. I don't know why. Just ignore that. I am in fact playing with a controller. But you know, full keyboard and mouse support if you do want to play like that. Plays fine. I just prefer it with a controller. So see there again on the far right. That's the island specific challenge.
All this wasteland used to be a forest.
Okay. Again, pretty simple island, pretty small. So we'll just whiz through this. I remember mostly what I need to do. Okay. We're gonna want to put a bomb here. There's a real charm to this game. It's definitely got that Zelda-like charm, like very childlike in its presentation, in its art, and in its characterization of like the character and the world and stuff. It's all very very light fantasy, you know. So do enjoy that. They do a great job of, you know, I mentioned before, it's a great looking iPad game, so, or iPad port, I should say. They do a good job of creating a style out of, you know, oh sorry, what little budget they had. So I always respect when games can do that. Oh, didn't want to do it. Getting a little bit framey there, I don't know what that's about. It's generally a pretty solid port. I did find that whenever I jumped out of menus, it had a slight frame rate hitching for a bit, for a short period, which is a bit annoying, but that was kind of on and off. That wasn't really every time, so I'm not really sure what that was about. If I remember right, we have to go down here. You know, I don't want to show too much off. We will finish this you know, this island, this dungeon or whatever, and then probably just call it there, because this game's decently long, and you kind of get the flow of this by the time I finish this dungeon. So, or this island or whatever. So, very, very unapologetically Zelda-like, which I don't know. That kind of probably in your mind will decide immediately whether that means it's something you're actually interested in playing. You know, as I mentioned, they do a couple of tweaks here and there to the formula, but it's all very minor stuff. So if you happen to not like Zelda games, then there's no real reason you're gonna like this, because it's very much one of those. I will say, however, that it's a weird game, because a lot of those Zelda games, you know, particularly Wind Waker and Ocarina of Time, and you know, even Majora's Mask to a lesser extent, because it's a bit more of an obscure one, but those games are really well revered, and obviously they're excellent games, very influential and all that. But this more applies to Ocarina of Time. But like, if you try and go back and play that now in 2015 or whatever, especially if you don't have the nostalgia of playing it back then, which I didn't when I first played it recently, a couple of years ago, it's kind of clunky. It definitely feels like a N64 game for a fairly early, well, I guess it's a mid-period N64 game. So it's clunky. Obviously, it looks like crap, which, you know, well, you cannot expect that. But it's clunky, it's awkward, it doesn't play great, and I feel like this sort of tightens it up in a way that makes it so. And again, I should note that I have not played anything post Wind Waker. I've always meant to, but never played Twilight Princess or Skyward Sword or whatever. So I'm only really talking about Wind Waker and Ocarina of Time, and I guess the 2D stuff before that. But it puts it in a weird position where this, as like a clone, it's kind of weird to say, but I feel like it plays better than. Well, you know, I don't want to make too bold of a statement, but I feel like it's one of the better playing Zelda games I've played in a while, particularly of this style, in this sort of simplistic early style, I guess. To where it plays better than Ocarina of Time. That doesn't, you know, I'm not saying it's a better game because that would just be crazy, but it just kind of plays better. It's more enjoyable to play. So I don't know. Take that with what you will, but it's just some of my musings as I've been playing this. Okay, so we need to rescue this guy. Nope, I'll keep talking to that guy. And I don't know, just some like fairly simple stuff like you'd have to futz around in menus to unequip and re-equip items. Like if you have key items, and you know this is just a product of the fact that it's a much smaller scale game, so there are far fewer items to equip. But and again, we won't be able to see it here because I only have the bombs. But if later on when you get the bombs and the arrows and other items, you know you can just switch between those items by, you know, hitting like left on or right on the D-pad even, just to quickly switch between them. So it's a lot more intuitive and a lot more dynamic than particularly Ocarina of Time. We get to like go into a menu and equip this and unequip that, and it was just a lot slower. But you know, again, that's just a product of this game being you know, a game in 2015 and also much smaller scale to the point where you can quickly scale through it. You know, jump through all the different items in a couple of seconds, you know. So, okay, fairly basic puzzle here. We just need to put each statue on the grassy bit, and we'll end it pretty soon. I just want to show this next bit, because I just want to show off the fact that this game actually has voice acting. Not a lot, only for key story bits, but I just thought it's kind of surprising for like a Zelda type clone like this to have voice acting, because you know, obviously Zelda is so iconic for not having voice acting. So I don't know. You'll see it in here in a minute with this mean looking owl man. And he's giving me some magic. And here we go. Here is story time with voice acting. It's, you know, it's fine. It's not. It's purely inoffensive. You know, it's not terrible, but it's not really amazing. So.
And its power flowed into my people and the forest. But when the darkness of the catastrophe hit, a man in a dark cape offered his help.
You know, I don't think you ever really want to trust a man in a dark cape.
He bought a seed.
Just I don't care what he's offering. Just turn away. Just don't look at him. No eye contact.
Termus, a demon plant, has taken over the shrine.
All right.
The shrine is located.
We'll skip that. Story stuff is decently well done, but you know, it's not really the main draw. So there you go. You know, he mentioned the Great Forest, so we discovered the island. Got a magic spell. It's like just a telekinesis spell. That will let me, you know, it'll let me basically activate buttons from afar. Right, by dropping rocks on them or whatever. So obviously I can do that too. I can do that to drop them on enemies or whatever, but that's the menus. You get a number of different spells. You know, I got Fireball later on. I got a spell that just freezes people and allows you to just like shatter them, so there's quite a lot of magic going on here. Nah, that's not the way we want. We want to go this way. That guy's gonna get it. Or half his body's gonna get it. That's fine. Whatever. Okay. So I'm just gonna get back to the boat and then we'll call it. That's you know, that's Oceanhorn. I can't really remember the subtitle. Something like Monsters of Uncharted Seas or something. Don't quote me on that. I can tell you with some certainty that it is definitely called Oceanhorn. I know that bit, that's for sure. So, so keep an eye out for that. Like I said, possibly coming to console soon. It's on Steam. It's also on the Apple Store. It's on the iOS Store. For iPad, I believe it's just iPad. I don't think it's on iOS. I mean, iPhone. Sorry. Tired. I'm just talking shit. I don't know what I'm on about, but. You know, it's slightly cheaper on the iPad, but obviously it's maybe a better looking and, you know, there's controller support and stuff on the PC, so. Yeah, that's Oceanhorn. I like it. I think it's got a great sense of style. Great presentation. You know, very unapologetically a Zelda clone. To the point where it's a pretty unoriginal game, to be fair, but, you know, whatever, I don't mind. I like a good Zelda game every now and then, so that is very much this. So that's Oceanhorn, and that's all from me for now. Thanks for watching, and I'm gonna keep playing. So I'll just see you next time. You know.